Good evening, I'm Kathy Cuevas, and I'd like to welcome you to the McClung Public Speaking Contest. You may not be aware, but this is actually the largest public speaking contest in the Southeast, so we're very proud of all of our finalists this evening. We're honored to host such an impressive event here at the University of Tennessee, and we also want to let you know that all of the finalists you'll be hearing from this evening have already gone through quite an extensive process in their selection. All of our finalists submitted outlines, as did other students, for the first round of our contest, and from those outlines we had 12 students selected for the semifinal round of the contest, and during the semifinal round, those students presented their speeches to a panel of judges. We have actually listed the names of the semifinalists in the program this evening, and we'd like to take a minute now just to thank them for all of their hard work. At this time, I'd like to introduce Sarah Burnley, who's the co-chair for the event this evening.
Thank you, Kathy. Please remember to be respectful to all of our speakers. Each student has done a lot of hard work and practice, so please respect that. And at this point, if you will silence your cell phones, please, just as a reminder. As part of your responsibility as an audience member, please keep in mind that you are expected to stay for the entire event until we have announced the winners. Everyone will stay seated until we have announced the winners. We'd like to thank our honored students tonight for serving as our ushers and handing out our programs. And at this point, we would also like to take a moment to recognize our other committee members.
She is a freshman at UT, majoring in religious studies. She's from Madisonville, Tennessee, and her speech is entitled, "A Day in the Life of a Japanese High School Student." Please help me in welcoming Brandy.
Imagine going to high school and not having the time to hang out with your friends. Not having the time to go on a date. Not having the time to get on Facebook or Twitter. Because in Japan, your society, your parents, and your teachers demand that school is your #1 priority. These are just a few freedoms that Japanese high school students do not get to enjoy. Failure is not an option in Japan. World Education News and Reviews published an online article in June of 2005 stating that the Japanese high school system enrolls 97% of their junior high students and graduates nearly all of them. How does the U.S. compare? Only 70% of high school students in the U.S. will graduate. High school graduation is seen as a benchmark of success in the Japanese society. Today, I want to inform you about the daily regimented routine of Japanese high school students. So, I bet you're all wondering, how does this apply to you? Well, here at UT, as you know, we have the Ready for the World mindset. UT is preparing us for the competitive global job market. By knowing how rigorous a high school education is in a nation like Japan, we will have a better understanding of what we're up against in the competitive global job market. Today, we will look at the morning routine, the afternoon routine, and the evening routine of a Japanese high school student. Let us begin by looking at the morning routine of a Japanese high school student. In 1996, Japan Digest published an article by Jeffrey and Marsha Johnson stating that students may leave for school as early as 6:30 a.m. in the morning. The high school a student attends is based off of their previous test scores. Therefore, a student may have to walk several blocks in order to get to a bus stop to take them to the appropriate high school. This time spent traveling to and from schools can limit the number of hours a student gets to spend sleeping or studying. Jeffrey and Marcia also note that once at school, students will stay in their homerooms virtually all day. Teachers will move from room to room, teaching the day's lessons. This is because of Japan's emphasis placed on group-centeredness. WENR notes that in the high school curriculum in Japan, you're likely to find Japanese classics, mathematics, health, and foreign language. As the academic day is coming to an end, let us look at the afternoon activities of a Japanese high school student. CBS Evening News reported in 2010 that once the academic day is over, students will then leave the school. Iwana writes in the 1993 book, Patterns of Socialization, Equality, and Political Control, that cleaning is influenced by their belief in Buddhism. Once cleaning is done, students will then attend their club activities. This should be fun, right? Maybe. Jeffrey and Marcia note that each student is only allowed to join one club throughout their entire high school career. How would you feel if you could only join one club? Clubs meet every day, meeting for 2 hours a day, making the school day end around 5 or 6 p.m. And seniors will often withdraw from clubs in order to devote more time to studying. Now, let us look at the evening routine of a Japanese high school student. After clubs have adjourned, students may then attend Joku, which is an extra class in preparation for these tough college entrance exams. Jeffrey and Marcia note that courses of study may include Japanese, social studies, and English. In August of this year, USA Today noted that students may not return home from Joku until 10 p.m. at night. Yes, Joku may help students prepare for these tough college entrance exams, but it's depriving students of their childhood. In an M1 interview in June of this year, Rayona Yukihara recalled her childhood being taken away by all of these preparations. If a student fails the entrance exam, they must spend 1 year studying at Yobikyu, which is cram school for students who fail. In 1983, the New York Times published an article stating, the most desirable employers recruit from the top universities in Japan. In Japan, a college education guarantees a high authoritative job. In summary, I hope we can all see the structure of a high school education in Japan by examining the morning routine, the afternoon routine, and the evening routines of a Japanese high school student. I also hope we are all able to see some of the freedoms forgone in order to not be looked down upon by the Japanese society. I'll leave you with this final statement by Vice President of Yoyogi Seminar, as stated in the New York Times. In Japan, a large part of your success in life depends upon which university you went to. It's a passport you have to have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Brandy. We would now like to take a second to introduce our judges, everyone. So judges, if you could please stand when I call your name. Our first judge tonight is Dr. Laura Miller. Dr. Miller has served as an assistant professor in the School of Communication Studies since 2009. She received her PhD from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Dr. Miller teaches courses in communication theory, health communication, and conducts research in interpersonal communication, health communication, message development, and social support. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Laura Miller. Our second judge this evening is Dr. John Hawes. Dr. Hawes has a long and distinguished career with the University of Tennessee, serving as a faculty member in communication since 1989. Dr. Haas has served as the director of the School of Communication Studies since 2003, and he is currently serving as interim director for the School of Advertising and Public Relations. Dr. Haas teaches graduate and undergraduate courses in organizational communication, interpersonal communication, and research methods. Please join me in welcoming Dr. John Haas. Our third judge this evening is Dr. Michelle Violanti. Dr. Violanti serves as an associate professor in the School of Communication Studies, and she earned her PhD in 1995 from the University of Kansas. Dr. Violanti also has had a long career working with students at the University of Tennessee, as she first began teaching here in 1995. Dr. Violanti teaches required classes in communication theory, research methods, and instructional communication. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Michelle Violanti. On a final note, please also help me welcome Dr. Virginia Kupritz, who is the acting director of the School of Communication Studies.
Thank you, Paisley. Our second speaker this evening is Ambika Pandey. Ambika is a freshman from New Delhi, India, and is a pre-med major. Ambika's speech is entitled Discrimination Against Women in India. Please help me welcome Ambika.
According to the book Super Economics, written in 2009, there's a chapter in which the authors wrote about how an organization called the US charity Smile Train spent some time in India. While in India, they encountered a local Indian man who they asked how many children he had. He replied that he had one son. The organization later found out that he had one son and 6 other daughters who he neglected to mention because they were girls, and they didn't deserve a mention. Women are discriminated in the whole world, but this is especially prevalent in India, with this case being one of many such cases. It can be as simple as not acknowledging their existence or killing them because they're female. People are unaware about how much gender inequality there is in India and how exactly they're discriminated against. So today I will speak to you about the 3 main ways women are discriminated against in India, which are dowry death, female feticide, and child marriage. The first form of discrimination I will discuss is dowry death. A dowry is defined as property or money brought by a bride to her husband on the day of their marriage. A dowry death refers to the deaths of women who are killed or driven to commit suicide because they don't comply with the increasing demands for dowry. Now, when a bride is married, she brings gifts to her husband and his family, which are supposed to be voluntary, but the woman is considered a burden in India. So a huge compensation is demanded. And this compensation can sometimes equal to more than the annual income of the family. If the bride does not comply, she becomes a victim of physical and mental torture, and sometimes death. When the husband and his family kill the woman because she does not comply with the increasing demands for dowry, it's called bride burning. The 2012 article on the website of the Telegraph states that the most common way a woman is killed if she does not comply with the increasing demands for dowry is that she is forced into flammable clothing soaked in paraffin and then set alight. The husband and his family then claim that her clothes caught fire while she was cooking. That's the name of bride burning. This leaves the man who is free to remarry to start this whole cycle of dowry all over again. According to the June 2011 article in the journal Climateric, there are more than 6,000 dowry deaths through bride burning each year. Now that you all understand what dowry deaths are, I will move on to the next form of discrimination, which is female feticide. The article Female Feticide in India, published in 2010, defines it as It involves a practice that involves the protection and abortion of the female fetus into preference for male babies. This is because the status of a woman is really low. She is considered a burden, and so the parents get rid of her as soon as she is born. The mindset in India is that if you have a son, you will get dowry, but if you have a girl, you will pay dowry. An article on the BBC News website in 2011 tells us the story about a woman called Kulwant, who lives in a lower middle class area in New Delhi. Kulwant has 3 daughters and a son, and in the time period between her daughter and the son, she got pregnant 3 times, and she was forced to abort the fetus all 3 times because the ultrasound confirmed it was a female. The Census of India in 2011 states that the ratio of girls to boys in India is 940 girls to every 1,000 boys. And in a country of 1 billion people like India, this gap is hugely magnified. It also states that no matter what numbers are used, due to selective abortion and gender selection, there are approximately 36 million more men than women in India as of today. Now that you all understand what a female feticide is, I will move on to the third and final form of discrimination I will discuss today, which is child marriage. A child marriage is defined as a formal or informal marriage before the age of 18. While this involves both boys and girls are the ones greatly affected by this. In fact, an article in the National Geographic magazine, published in June 2011, tells us that there are girls as young as 13 being married off to men in their mid-30s. The July 2010 article on the website of the International Center for Research on Women states that one of the main reasons for child marriage is poverty. If they get their girls married early, that means they have one less mouth to feed. This article also states that girls who marry young are at greater risk of dying during childbirth, contracting AIDS, or becoming a victim of domestic violence. But the worst consequence of child marriage is that it deprives girls of a childhood and an education. Instead of playing with friends or worrying about the exams, they have to take on domestic responsibility and motherhood. To summarize, the 3 main ways women are discriminated against in India are dowry debt, female feticide, and child marriage. I hope you all know a little more about the plight of women in India and will use this information to help these women. Gender equality is essential for the achievement of human rights for all. Thank you.
Right. Our next speaker this evening is Mrs. Sarah Krebs. Sarah is a freshman at UT, majoring in English with a minor in elementary education. Sarah is from LaGuerre, Tennessee, and tonight she will be speaking about the A21 campaign in Oregon. Please help me welcome Sarah.
One day, a woman named Christine Kane was walking through an airport in Greece when she happened to come across a wall covered in pictures of women and children. At first, she didn't know what these pictures could be there for, but after asking around the airport, she discovered that these were the pictures of the alleged victims of sex trafficking in the area. At first, all Christine could feel was horror, but eventually, this feeling of horror turned into passion. A passion for stopping sex trafficking. And she soon founded the A21 campaign, an organization dedicated to fighting sex trafficking, not just in Greece, but around the entire world. YouTube 2011. The purpose of my speech tonight is going to be to inform you a little bit about the A21 campaign and why they're focusing so much of their efforts in Greece. To do this, I'm going to tell you how our society is uneducated about sex trafficking. Then, I'm going to talk about why sex trafficking is so prevalent in Greece. And last, I'm going to give you a real-life example of what the A21 campaign has done in our world. First, let's look at how our society is uneducated about sex trafficking. In our country specifically, we believe that slavery had been defeated a long time ago. enslaved in our world today, and 1.4 million of those people are sex slaves. Slavery is worse than it's ever been before, and we don't seem to know about it. Now, you might be sitting here thinking, yes, I understand that sex slavery is absolutely horrid, but how does it affect me? I live in the United States. Does it even occur here? Or at least that's the impression I got after taking surveys in my own public speaking class on September 13th of 2013. What I got from these surveys were that people didn't know about the A21 campaign. Nobody ever heard about sex trafficking being talked about in our media, and some people even believe that sex trafficking never occurs in our country. Well, according to the A21 campaign in 2012, 17,500 people are trafficked annually in our country alone, and 33% of those people are United States citizens. We've even had to open 2 transitional homes in our country to help the hundreds of people that the A21 campaign has gotten out of sex trafficking already. And while we need to understand what's going on in our own country, we need to realize that what's happening here is happening on a much larger and much more horrific scale in Greece. Now, we're going to look at why sex trafficking is so prevalent in Greece. According to a University of Sydney journal in 2009, after the fall of the Soviet Union in the 1980s, conflict, corruption, poverty, and social injustice overtook the entire country. But poverty affected the people the most, and it affected one people group more than any other, the women. According to a Journal of International Affairs in 2000, 70 to 80% of the women in Greece were unemployed. And because Europe's already a very male-dominant country, these women had even less chances for employment. It reached the point where women were putting themselves in situations that they knew were connected to sex slavery, because they began to believe what could be worse than where we're at now. Last, we're going to look at something that the A21 campaign has done, something that you can really connect with. I mentioned before that some women began voluntarily placing themselves in sex slavery, but honestly, the majority of these women in this industry are not there by their own choice. They're there because they're forced. An example of this came from YouTube in 2011, and it's the story of a young woman named Natalia. Natalia was set up on a blind date by her friends, and she believed the date was going great. But what she didn't know is that her date had drugged her coffee when she had gone to the bathroom. This date caused Natalia to pass out, and her date proceeded to throw her in the back of the trunk of his car like she was a piece of garbage. He then easily drove over the border into Greece just by paying off a corrupt guard with a little bit of cash. When Natalia woke up, she found herself chained to a bed, surrounded by numerous men she'd never seen before, and she was raped repeatedly. But for Natalia, the story has a good ending, because she was rescued by the A21 campaign, and their lawyers even caught her trafficker, and he was sentenced to 15 and a half years in prison and charged 108,000 euros. Natalia then got sent to many of the transitional homes that the A21 campaign had already built in Greece. While she was there, she was given educational and job opportunities, and she was given the medical and psychiatric support that she needed so that she could build a new life for herself that she deserved. In conclusion, I hope that everyone here understands that sex trafficking is not uncommon in our world today, and it's not uncommon in our country. It could happen to me, it could happen to any of you, it could happen to our sisters, our mothers, our friends, and our family. And the best thing that we can do about it right now is just to be informed. Thank you.
All right, our first speaker tonight is going to be Chelsea, and she's a freshman at UT majoring in biochemistry, but she plans on going to the UT nursing program. She's from Rocky Top, Knoxville, Tennessee, and she'll be talking about communication in South Africa. Please help me in applauding Chelsea.
Imagine stepping off the plane and onto the ground in South Africa. You're tired, hungry, and you really need to find a bathroom. You finally find a local who looks kind, and so you ask for help. But you're shocked as he replies, "Saya no kala noke, diabuya utuwazi," which means, "Welcome, pleased to meet you." Hi, I'm Chelsea Bells, and this evening I'm here to compare communication between South Africa and the United States in 2 key areas. Whether studying abroad, traveling to a foreign country for fun, or perhaps even meeting a foreigner in our own country, we will all probably need to communicate with someone who communicates differently than we do. So considering their methods allows us to connect better. After recently visiting South Africa, as well as other foreign countries, and also keeping in contact with some South African friends, I have discovered the importance in comparing communication between 2 countries and understanding their differences, so I decided to do some more research. The 2 key areas to consider when comparing communication are verbal and nonverbal communication. The first key area I want to discuss involves nonverbal communication. Body language and nonverbal communication are words that are used to say the same thing. Paxton said in 2007 that body language can consist of gestures and appearance or dress. First, I want to discuss how nonverbal communication differs in the section including appearance. In both countries, what you wear can define who you are. In 1996, Hendrickson said how in Africa, the clothes you wear can represent your age, authority, religion, or relationship status. The basis for picking out your outfit is your tradition. In 1997, Von Kapp describes what the Zulu tribe wears on a normal basis. If you're a male, you typically wear animal skins as aprons, and if you're married, you wear a headband. For females, if you're a young girl, you wear a grass skirt with no top, and if you're a married woman, you completely cover yourself. However, in America, Crane wrote in 2007 that the fashion trend at the time is the main factor influencing your dress. Therefore, instead of communicating your traditions, you're communicating information about the fashion and about yourself as an individual. Next, the second type of body language in nonverbal communication is gestures. In both the United States and South Africa, your gestures can communicate your attitude towards something or how strongly you feel about something. According to graduate students at the University of Texas, Dallas in 2012, South African gestures are particular and important. For example, raising your right hand in the air can symbolize black power. Covering your mouth with your right hand when you yawn is very polite. Having both hands in your pockets is considered extremely rude, and I've asked Paisley to come help me demonstrate the special handshake in South Africa. First, it begins with a normal handshake. Then you swoop up and grab around the thumbs, back to the normal handshake, and then you get in thumb wrestling position and snap your thumbs. Thank you. What hand gesture in America typically means something is so-so? Correct. That same gesture there stands for the middle finger here. Now that you're aware of some types of nonverbal communication and how they differ in the countries, let's talk about verbal communication. Verbal communication can include spoken language and ways to greet people. First, Burns said in 1997 that South Africa has 11 official languages. They are Zulu, Xhosa, which is what I spoke in the introduction, Afrikaans, English, Pedi, Soto, Tswana, Tsonga, Swati, Luvenda, and Ndebele. English is the language used mostly in business, however. Brand South Africa took some statistics from the census in 2001 and said that most South Africans speak an average of 3 languages. When I went to South Africa, I met a girl who was only in the 2nd grade, and even she spoke 3 languages. Show on your fingers how many official languages that you think there are in the United States. Well, this was a trick question because technically the United States has never declared a language at the federal level. English is, however, spoken by about 80% of the population, according to the Migration Policy Institute in 2013. That's the number of people who only speak English. In addition, Greetings are also more particular in South Africa than they are here. A 2004 website made by DePaul University says that greetings are supposed to be friendly and you're supposed to greet everyone you pass on the street. You're supposed to say their title, such as Mr. or Doctor, and then their name. But if you don't know their name, then you use their occupation, such as Mr. Businessman. America is different because you typically only greet those that you know very well. Also, proper titles are less frequently used because we tend to be less formal. To recap, I hope you now better understand the two key areas to consider when comparing communication between South Africa and the United States, which are verbal and nonverbal communication. You do not have to go through the shock from the introduction and run the risk of not finding a restroom if you choose to prepare yourself to communicate with others who don't communicate the way you do. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. I think I now know how to greet people in South Africa.
Our final speaker of the evening is Catherine Whitaker. Catherine is a sophomore from Murfreesboro, Tennessee, majoring in psychology. Catherine's speech is entitled Customer Service in Japan. Please help me welcome Catherine.
So, by show of hands, how many of you have been to McDonald's? I would be worried if you haven't. Now, how many of you have been to a McDonald's in Japan? Oh, a couple people. Well, one thing that you would notice is that in Japan, they add a smile to the end of your order with the price listed as free. They do this because the workers are trained to always be smiling, and they believe that the customer needs to know that it's for them. Tonight I will be talking to you about the two major ways Japan creates great customer relations. The first way is by researching the customer's interests, and the second way is by showing appreciation. We've all been on the receiving end of customer service, and I'm sure that not all of our experiences have been great. I've been to Japan several times, and growing up, I started to notice the differences in the way that I was treated. So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is how companies research the customer's interests. David McGee says in his 2007 book, How Toyota Became #1, that in order to make the Toyota sign successful in America, they had to employ the company philosophy of genchi genbutsu, which basically means going to the source in order to learn something firsthand. The team went to popular parks and neighborhoods in California and hung out with the locals there in order to see what their audience wanted. By doing this, they learned that the audience wanted a car that was not going to be mainstream, commercial, or something that older generations would drive. In addition, he writes that Toyota appealed to their audience in a very specific way. They did their campaigns with DJs and music, t-shirts, and they had skateboards too. Corporate manager Steve Hogg was quoted in the same book by saying that he wanted the audience to get to know Toyota for themselves, and that when it came time for them to buy a car, that they would do so because they liked the company and not because they felt forced into doing so. So now that we've discussed how a successful company in Japan employed customer service interests, let's see how appreciation affects customer relations. Japanese salespeople are trained to show appreciation to everyone. First, Leonardo Inghilleri says in his 2010 book, Exceptional Service, Exceptional Profit, that there are 3 types of customer service. The first is non-compliant. In this case, a customer walks in and asks for a glass of water. And the salesperson says, oh yes, we have a water fountain right down the hallway. The second is compliant service. In this case, the customer walks in and, excuse me, can I have a glass of water? And the salesperson says, oh yes, here you go, sir. But this kind of service is baseline service, and it won't create any loyalty. The last type is anticipatory service. In this case, the customer walks in, and the salesperson says, it's been such a hot day today. May I offer you a glass of water? Before the customer even has any time to say anything about their needs. This last type of service is typically rare, but it will create loyalty. Finally, Bridget Brennan, CEO of Female Factor and author of Why She Buys, said in a 2012 Forbes article that she had possibly been thanked more times in her 8-day stay in Japan than she had been in her entire life. Salespeople in Japan are taught to be very excited about what they have to offer and to help the customer in any way that they possibly can. They are usually given a hearty welcome as they walk in and are thanked and said goodbye to as they leave. In smaller businesses, it isn't uncommon to even be escorted to the sidewalk after you've paid your purses. When you're thanked in this way, you notice and you appreciate the gesture, and in the end, it makes you want to come back. Japanese businesses use this as a way to retain their customers and create lots of loyalty. You can even be thanked if you haven't made a purchase and just came in and left. Finally, if something goes wrong, Japanese salespeople are trained to apologize. In the US, salespeople have a tendency to make excuses or reasons why something didn't go according to plan. In Japan, they're trained to apologize with "moshiwake arimasen deshita," which is a very formal, strong apology that's used whenever a customer is inconvenienced. To recap, I hope you have a better understanding of the two major ways that Japan creates great customer relations: by researching the customer's interests and showing appreciation to everyone. We all deserve to know great customer service. So in the future, I hope you decide to travel to Japan and experience it for yourself. And to remember that the smile is always free of charge. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. As our judges deliberate, please take a minute to rank each of the speakers on the back of your program. This is part of your class assignment and will be submitted to your instructor so you can receive full credit for attending the contest. We are making history tonight. Give yourself applause. For the first time in our contest history, which we've had how many years? A lot. For the first time, we do have a tie, okay? In fourth place, we have Ms. Amika Honde. In third place, we have Ms. Catherine Whitaker. And again, for the first time in our history of this competition, we have a tie for second place. We have Ms. Brandy McClung.